1, 2. Yep, check. What is good? Just getting set up, ready to go. Getting started shortly. Thank you anybody who's dropping by late night live once again. This time powered by a monster. Man, I woke up amped today. No, I got someone hit me up on Odyssey. What is good? I'm going to get started here. Hope everybody's doing well on a Sunday night. I want to tell you a little bit why I got amped this morning. Been holding it in all morning. So I wanted to do a live right when I woke up. Eric Smith is like, damn, bruh. What's up, Eric Smith? Yeah, I'm in mountain time, so it's 11 p.m. my time, but I'm an old man, Eric, so it might as well be 4 in the morning. So I'm trying to, that's why I got my monsters. I know it's not healthy, but I'd rather try to have a little bit of energy. I want to have a little bit of fire. Thank you for stopping by 1 in the morning, Eric. Appreciate you. But I'll tell you in a second. It's going to actually be a couple segments before I get to why I woke up kind of heated. I'm calmed down now. I wish I could have done the live when I was heated, but I want to do a quick shout out. I hope I really can't manage. I've got my computer, I've got my iPad, trying to get the audio right. It's hard for me to manage all that and check the live streams. So Dina Marie in the chat. Eric Smith is like, you're only 45. So I'm 44 now. Just had my birthday in December, and bruh, I know kind of like a mentality too. So I'm not trying to say, hey, I'm like this old man, but just have to be honest, man. I could not do the lives without a monster or coffee. I would have to take a nap or something, and I hate taking naps. Dina Marie, thanks for stopping by. Appreciate you. Odyssey. I'm on Odyssey. I should be live on Odyssey right now. I don't know. This is the first time I'm ever checking. I'm going to check real quick to see if I'm actually live on Odyssey. I don't even know how it shows up. I don't see it. Odyssey is a little bit, I got to practice Odyssey, but I've been kind of neglecting it. I upload everything to Odyssey, and I haven't really been shouting out Odyssey or kind of trying to push it or promote it. Common Sense Call Out commented on one of my videos that went to Odyssey, said, you have good content. Please promote your Odyssey channel more. Need more comments here. I said, good feedback. I need to promote this channel more. I will do so. Thanks. So I'm not AOC. I'm not Nick Fuentes. I'm not Destiny, but I'll do my best. That's my shout out, and thank you for putting that feedback there on Odyssey. So Odyssey doesn't have as many views, so it's hard, like, for the motivation to do it. When I started this channel, I didn't even really expect to get views, but because I have more interaction on YouTube and Twitter, I go live and have more interaction there. So it's easier to kind of promote those avenues. But yeah, I've got great topics today. So if you come by, please stay as long as you can. But I'm going to upload everything. Well, if I can get to it, it's a lot of. I think I mentioned this before, but the one thing that, if you're not familiar with like YouTube and stuff, the one thing that they don't tell you, you don't know before you go into it, unless you already kind of know about video editing, is it's a lot of editing. It's a lot of editing. So the show is actually the easiest part. As long as you get the levels right and stuff, the camera, the show's the easiest part. When you start getting into editing, that's when it's the fun part. It's not rocket science, but it just takes time is the thing. Let me show you one more thing before I get started in promotion. Somebody replied to one of my tweets, and in their handle, they had a slogan that kind of caught my attention. So I'll show you here what it looks like. And I was like, wait, I got to do a shirt on. This was literally on Friday. So Friday, and then already got a draft for a shirt. This is a quick short, just show it real quick. This is the draft for a shirt, and just try it out. I've been thinking about what other type of gear I want to try. This one's a little bit, I usually don't wear shirts that have that big of a statement on it, but I love the slogan. And I like Luke Radowski. He does all these different shirts and stuff. So I didn't make that up. I got it from whoever, I don't know where they got it from, but it looked like a bot, but I think it was a real person. It said the vaccine for 1884 is 1776. I thought that was a cool little slogan there. But, before I get into what I'm going to talk about first, I never knew Eric Smith was talking about him damn near 45 years old. I would have never told you as a 45-year-old man that I would talk about a 23-year-old kid so often, but I'm just going where my passion is, what's going on in my head. So, hey, why not take advantage of it? I don't have to answer to anyone other than my YouTube overlords. I don't really have to answer to anyone. So this debate, I want to give a shout out first and foremost. I want to give a lot of credit to Destiny and Nick Fuentes. They were awesome. They had a great debate. Great. Did anybody see it? Oh, Ray Studios, thank you. Yeah, I still got to get up with you. I did get Rivers' emails. We're getting into my junk mail, so I got to go in and make sure I'm not missing any. But thanks for stopping by. Nick Fuentes and Destiny had a debate on Friday. And growing up, I used to be in sports so much. I would take off like March Madness. The first 2 days, the first whole weekend is great. But Thursday, Friday, I would take off, then watch the games into the weekend. Now, I didn't even know. I think March Madness started Thursday. I didn't even know. Now I was hyped for this debate between Destiny and Nick Fuentes, and I'm not a big guy watching a lot of debates, just particular ones. And these two guys are very knowledgeable, and Destiny is very respectful in debates if you are respectful to him. If you're not, then it's just going to be straight fire. But so I know Nick is respectful in his debates. I've seen him debate Comic Dave Smith. I've seen him debate Destiny actually probably a year or two ago. And it was excellent. I mean, it was on Ukraine and Russia. That was the whole topic of the debate. And I learned more watching that debate. Like when you look at the pundits, I learned a lot from this Ukraine, I think it's called Ukraine on Fire. The video, I think YouTube took it down, but I saw it on Rumble. Great. If you want to kind of dig into Ukraine in Russia, specifically Ukraine. That's it's the Oliver Stone movie, and documentary kind of. It was really good. The one thing is I couldn't have it on in the background because I kept missing stuff and having to rewind it, so I had to sit down and actually watch it. But it was really good. But as far as pundits go, I have not gotten more information from any pundits, better information on both sides. Obviously, Nick is taking the pro-Putin side, kind of. You could describe it as that. And Destiny's taking the pro-establishment side because he's an establishment guy, but really smart, really bright. I wanted to play a little bit of the end, though. The end didn't have anything to do with Russia, Ukraine. The end, so you could tell they both knew it was a great debate. I could tell Destiny knew it was a great debate, and Nick did too. And their chemistry was excellent. And at the end, Destiny, I think he knew that this was a good moment. And he doesn't talk to Nick a lot. He said that himself in the debate. That's why I know that. And he wanted to take advantage of having a conversation with him. And that part of the debate was awesome. So let me see if I can share just a little bit of that. Hopefully this audio comes through here. I'm going to back it up a little bit. See if this audio comes through.
War is brutal, and Russia, as a sovereign, should be able to conduct that in the way that they see fit. And for the United States to throw their dick around,
no, I don't see levels.
Right,
hold on.
But if people do that to America, well, that's whataboutism and whatever.
Was that audio coming through, or was it echoing? Let me wait to get some feedback. Arizona Patriot has entered the chat. Thank you for stopping by. Good evening. This is a night one. Yeah. So many things going around in the house. There was no way for me to do. I wanted to do a video right when I woke up today. I'll get into that later if you can stick around. It was fine. Okay. Thank you, Eric. Let me bring it back again.
So I think that, realism is what keeps the world safe. I think that diplomacy is what keeps the world safe. And respecting sovereignty begins and ends with those tricky issues like torture, like so-called war crimes, whatever.
This isn't where I want. It's going to lead into it. After Nick stops talking, then Destiny's going to ask him some questions outside of Ukraine.
And we're obviously not talking about war crimes like exterminating a population, like gassing people, like using banned chemical weapons, like rules of war. But what they did in Chechnya, it's very easy for Americans to come in and judge, but it's like Russia's got the biggest Muslim population in Europe. They have a lot of terrorists and radicals there. There were a lot of problems there. Like, it's easy to judge, but it's an insurgency. That's how these things are fought. And so anyway, so that's my answer.
Okay, gotcha. Just curious. Final question that's 90 degrees off of all of this in a completely different direction. And you don't have to answer this if this is vital to your business. I'm just so curious. So obviously you do some of these conferences and you're able to get some pretty mainstream Republicans that will invariably disavow you afterwards. It almost feels sometimes like I'm watching Borat, where people get drafted into the Fuentes convention and then afterwards they're like, oh, I don't know who the fuck that is. I didn't do, how do you feel about that? Do you view these people as allies and then backstabbers, or do you feel that you kind of got to one over them? You've tricked them by bringing them onto your thing, and then now you've gotten their implicit endorsement, whether they want it or not. What is your, I guess, how do you view them orbiting around you and your relationship with them? What does that feel like?
That's a tricky question. Well, I know you had a similar situation with your candidate for mayor. And you understand this. It's a difficult situation because politicians have different pressures. And so, and here's the thing, when I bring people to my conference, they're speaking to my audience. It's the America First Political Action Conference is meant to be a substitute for CPAC. We're trying to take over the conservative movement. And, I'm a very controversial guy. So I don't take it as a backstab when these people go out and say, oh, I don't support what he said. I don't know who he is. It doesn't matter. I'm the master of ceremonies. I'm the sort of circus leader. I bring the acts. I bring the dancing bear. I bring the whatever. Not to be degrading towards these people, but you know what I'm saying. It's like I'm the host, and so in the same way, like Matt Schlapp is a liberal.
What I like here is we're getting insight to how he thinks as a marketer, as a planner, and the big picture of where he fits in the whole, if you want to call it a conservative movement.
Mercedes Schlapp, they run CPAC. These people are liberals. Nobody holds it against the conservatives that go to CPAC that they go to a conference hosted by Matt Schlapp. I'm more controversial, but we're trying to build a big tent, America First Alliance. It creates problems when these people come to my conference politically because of like Kevin McCarthy and others. But I don't take it as a backstab because, you know, we're trying to build a big tent thing. We understand what we're up against. It's difficult to move the needle on these issues, but ultimately, I think what will win out is that the base is closer to us than they are to CPAC. Say whatever you will about us. The worst things you could say about us are not as bad as the worst things you could say about CPAC. And maybe I know liberals have a hard time with this.
I agree with that.
You know,
I agree with that. Those are facts right there.
You know, me being called the white nationalist, like conservatives don't care about that because when we hear that, we just hear like, oh, you're the boogeyman. But
facts. Who tell me? Be honest. Who cares if somebody calls you racist or white nationalist nowadays? It's the boy who cried wolf. It goes in one ear, out the other. I couldn't care less nowadays. Now, you have to be aware that, of course, there's real ones out there, but that's just, they've watered the terms down.
But when liberals at CPAC support abortion, we view that as like, that's something that's against our moral values. That's like a huge red line for us. And so ultimately that will win out. It's like, okay, do we go to CPAC where they support abortion and they support, you know, all this horrible stuff that we're against, or do we support AFPAC where, you know, liberals are going to complain, but that's not, I mean, that's where we are, you know? So that's
because liberals will complain about conservatives no matter what, right?
Right.
Do you, so I'm curious, and this might be a hard one. Do you ever consider that for the success of the America First movement, would you ever consider like stepping away from that to let a less controversial figure kind of like move it forward? Or what if it came, not saying that this is happening, but what if it came to a point to where America First was on the cusp of breaking a little bit more in, but it seemed like you were hitting this, I'll say glass ceiling a few times?
What a question by Destiny. You could tell this was not planned. This is after the debate. Destiny's like, I'm not going to talk to this dude in a while. You know, who knows when the next time is. Man, they need to do a show together or something. Like, what a question that was. If you didn't hear the question, he's asking Nick, because Nick is controversial, and the controversy is what bubbled the group up. And Destiny's like, well, you could bubble it up, but Destiny's implying that there's a ceiling for the impact that Nick and his group, what do you call them, AFPAC or whatever you want to call it, there's a ceiling. And Destiny's asking, if you step away or run things in the background even more, if you step away and that would raise your ceiling, would you do that? And Nick, he's like, woo, you got some questions, boy.
Times where past things that you said have kind of like kept that from moving forward. Do you ever take a step back from everything and work behind the scenes like a shady person, or what? Or is that just maybe, who knows, you'll just see when it happens?
Maybe, but a big part of what we're doing is like, I sort of have to be a part of it only because, you know, there's this concept of the revolution. Like, we're trying to revolutionize the party. And to an extent, if I'm not a part of it, it's almost like we're giving ground to the establishment. And it's like, if they could kick me out and say, oh, we don't want his baggage, it's like the establishment is conquering the revolution. And we want the revolution to conquer the establishment. So I always make, and this is an old Stalin argument, but Stalin used to say, who is conquering who? Is the revolution conquering, or is the revolution being conquered? And I say, you know, insofar as I'm the face of it, we're not canceled, we're not controlled, we're not bought, we're not conceding. You know, so I think it's actually important that someone like me is leading it, because if they're not, it's the same thing that happened to the Tea Party. You know,
notice what Nick said there. Notice what Nick, oh shoot, I messed it up. Notice what Nick said there, and I'll probably just try to find the last question. He didn't say no. He sounded to me like he said, probably not, but it's not a 100% chance that I would always be the head. And then he started talking about you would need someone like me. Really interesting.
Forced to think more like that, as opposed to, because DC changed him and DC made him into another Republican.
He's talking about Trump here. So I want to end with this. He had honest, candid. That is one of my benchmarks with people who are, wherever they are, if they're in the realm of Trump, are they realistic about Trump? Are they real about where his foibles are, where he failed? And Nick is.
Or whatever.
Well, it depends on how you view the spectrum, because Pence and Cruz are more so-called like traditional.
Let me get that question. Sorry, I messed that whole thing up. Let me go back a little bit. This is the last one. They could do a whole show just.
Buttigieg, Warren, Newsom.
Let me try to find this here. Let's try it right here.
And to an extent, if I'm not a part of it, it's almost like we're giving ground to the establishment. And it's like, if they could kick me out and say, "Oh, we don't want his baggage," it's like the establishment is conquering the revolution, and we want the revolution to conquer the establishment. So I always make, and this is an old Stalin argument, but Stalin used to say, who is conquering who? Is the revolution conquering, or is the revolution being conquered? And I say, insofar as I'm the face of it, so we're not controlled, we're not bought, we're not conceding. So I think it's actually important that someone like me is leading it, because if they're not, it's the same thing that happened to the Tea Party. Let's sweep aside the controversial, even like Trumpism without Trump. They say, we want Trumpism without Trump. It's like, well, we need Trump, because Trump is the essence of Trumpism. If we have Trumpism led by DeSantis, that's not Trump.
You've watered it down to something that becomes indistinguishable of what you've almost like the prior movement has assimilated the revolution and become,
The revolution's been conquered, yes. What about you, Destiny? Do you have any political ambitions, huh?
I really, really, really the next 2 weeks want to get to Diamond 4 in League of Legends. That's what I'm driving for. We'll see what happens.
Do you play Valorant? Do you play Valorant?
Nope, not unfortunately. Don't worry. We'll figure something out. Final question, just randomly, because I don't talk to you often. Do you think that Trump is coming back to run again? Do you think that's going to happen?
Yeah, I don't think he's decided yet, but I think he will. And
do you think there's going to be a huge schism in the Republican Party when it happens, or do you think enough people? Because I feel like I would be worried as a Republican. Like, let's say most people like him, but is that enough? Like, if it ends up being like an 80% of the Republicans, like, do you just lose such a huge base that was against him for whatever they feel about January 6th or coronavirus or whatever? Does that represent more of a threat to the Republican Party, or is it necessary? Is it without Trump, there isn't somebody strong enough to oppose? What are, like, right now in a pretty unpopular administration by the Democrats, to be fair, like, do they win without Trump? Is Trump coming back for sure? I'm just curious what you think about it.
I think they have a really strong chance no matter what, because you're right. There's no presumptive front runner. Biden, I don't think will run. Kamala's not popular enough. And then who's left? Buttigieg, Warren, Newsom. They just don't have a lot of good options. But yeah, I think Trump, if he ran, I think it would just be over. And on the primary side, I think Trump would easily sail to get the nomination. Like he did in 2016. And I think it would be a good thing, because it would create a foil, because it's like, if he has to run against the establishment, he'll have to differentiate. And I think that'll push him further to the right, because he ran as an independent in 2016. He ran as a Republican in 2020, and running in 2024 against DeSantis or Pence would push him toward that like middle thing again, where he's, because if you look back at 2016, he's very different. And, you can understand the appeal. In 2020 becomes like a Sean Hannity, which sucks. So I think.
So you think if he ran against establishment candidates, you think he would move further to the center or further to the right? Seems hard, because it felt like Trump was more of like a character and like a cult of personality, rather than like a consistent set of I'm sure even you would admit this. Trump is not like a man of conservative principles and values, right? But
yeah, Destiny is 100% right. Trump is a New York Democrat. Like, at his core, that's what he was. And then he was always rich, somewhat in the club, but not really in the club, and wanted to get in. And then just came at the perfect time where people were just fed up. The Democrat Party's literally just spitting on the working class. And he was like, well, I'm good with y'all. Steve Bannon taught him what the word populist was. And Trump was like, oh, yeah, yep, that's what I am. And then he became the face, and he just, from there on, just listened to the people. And that's how he rose up.
But he definitely had like a character to resist the establishment that was relatively unique in him, that wasn't like maybe the beacon of values like somebody might say like Pence or somebody is, whatever, right? So do you think he moves further to the right or more moderate if he has to run against like a bunch of like Ted Cruz, Mike Pence-esque, to say their figures or whatever?
Well, it depends on how you view the spectrum, because Pence and Cruz are more so-called like traditional conservatives than Trump is. But I view Trump where he is more right wing, because I view Pence and Cruz as like they concede a lot of ground to liberals, and like this free market stuff and limited government. I view that as actually middle, as opposed to Trump, who is more like it's big government. I don't think big government is left wing. Like Trump said, we're going to take care of everybody, with healthcare. Like that's That's not the free market position on healthcare. So I agree. Trump isn't but that's a good thing. He's not a mainstream, conventional conservative. He's a different flavor, and he is a character. And he understands we're in a war here. He's like, I just want to win. And conservatives are like, yeah, we want to be on the winning team. We want to run shit. We want our side to win. So I think that he'll be forced to think more too, because DC changed him, and DC made him into another Republican, and I hate that. Okay. Real, it's true. Take it from me. I would know. I mean,
I really appreciated that interaction. I just liked how they both respected each other throughout the whole debate, and then we got some insight of how how Nick Fuentes thinks. Let me know what you think. Oh, we got DeSantis for VP still out here. I just don't think you can put two alpha dogs together. I don't see it. To me, I really like Tulsi as VP. I know a lot of conservatives. That's why I would never call myself a conservative or Republican, because I don't want to be tied into whatever whatever stereotype or textbook thing that is. I'm not going to necessarily agree with them on abortion or whatever else. And I know Tulsi's, she's off on guns, but I haven't heard her talk about it in a while. But she's right on where it counts right now with big tech and just the overall picture. And I don't need to agree with somebody to respect them. So I agree with Tulsi on a lot. And if we disagree on guns, even though that's the Second Amendment, I mean, that's fundamental, I don't mind having that balance. I think Tulsi would be a much better VP than DeSantis, only because I don't like two male fighting fish in the same fishbowl. That's not going to end up well, y'all. Ray Studios says, lost a lot of trust in Tulsi since we found out she was part. See, but what I got to look into that, because I keep saying this. I saw that come up where she was named as like one of these world leaders of it. Let me look that up, since that's come up on the show quite a few times and I haven't really looked into. I need to get Peasant Journalist on here. He's the expert on that stuff. So let me know what you think, y'all. Is that the end of the world? Like, is it just a designation? Let me show you. If you don't know what Ray Studios is talking about, let me share my tab real quick. He's talking about, many people probably know, but this is all I know about it, is this. I saw this come up. Oh, wow. Wow. This is news from March 18th. The WEF has scrubbed, I don't know if this is true or not, I'm just reading a tweet. So allegedly, they scrubbed Tulsi Gabbard from their site since I took this photo of her on it last week. She should be after Freeland, but she has gone. Poof. Man, I know. I have to admit something if that's true, that doesn't smell right. I'll agree with that. I don't know, man. This world is crazy, man. I don't know what to think. I literally don't know what to think anymore. I don't know what's real, what's not. I'm going to talk about Babylon Bee got banned for that. What they did was not my style. I don't really like playing around with people's identities. I know, but they should have the right to do it. And I'll talk about that later. But what my point is, I don't know where we are. I don't know what parody is. I don't know what satire is. I don't know what you can say, what you can't say. They've got me at least disoriented. That's crazy. Why would they scrub her? I don't know. I still am going to judge her by her actions, and I have no problem with her actions so far. It could be like an AOC thing where I liked AOC at first, and then I flip. I leave room to flip. I'll flip in a heartbeat with new information. Oh, I'll flip in a heartbeat and say I hate Tulsi, but not now. I mean, I like Tulsi, so I wouldn't do that. Let me show you why I woke up. I was disappointed when I woke up. I first saw. Let me actually start with this. Let me start with a video. This is really how I woke up. I woke up to Salty Cracker.
And over here, this just happened. Take a look at this. This is ASB military news. These dudes are not allowed anywhere because they're giving out accurate information. And you're only allowed to be on the big tech platforms if you're telling everybody, no, the fucking Russians are stupid, and they're out of fuel, and they're out of water, and they're out of weapons. They don't even know where the fuck they're at. Again, they ain't got any wokeness in them. They suck. They're losing. They're totally losing to everybody. Don't mind the Kiev puppet going around begging.
So there's this ASB AZ Patriot. We've got some salty fans here. He's the best, man. He is so good. But ASB military news. That's what he's talking about. There was military news. A silent leftist. That's true. I don't. That's why I say I'm stuck in the middle. I'm not gonna say I'm a right or left, or I'm gonna try and be with the people as a populist. But that's a good point, Eric. But
Everybody for more weapons.
Salty's talking about an update to Russia-Ukraine.
Drones and all. Don't worry about that. No, they're totally winning. All right, well, what about this? $400 million worth of Western-supplied weaponry destroyed in a single Russian strike on the military base near Lvov. Radio-intercepted comms suggest that 267 foreign mercenaries have been killed in the strike. 50-year-old Peter from Austria, who fought alongside the International Legion of Ukraine, full of Reddit tards, said that 800 to 1,000 foreign mercenaries were present during the strike, and around 400 of them have been evacuated to Poland, many of whom have suffered severe burns, torn limbs from the caliber strike. There's a high number of missing individuals still under the rubble, which includes a high number of Americans, Poles, Romanians, former NATO officers are also amongst the dead.
So that's what I woke up to. So he's talking about this missile. The thing that caught me was when he said it wiped out 400 million. This is all alleged. Anything that I post or talk about, news-wise or anything with the Ukraine-Russia war, all alleged. I don't know what to believe. I'm just going to go off of, assume this is right, let's talk about it. So they said that $400 million worth of weapons got destroyed by one bullet. And I'm like, whoa, is that real? Like, what kind of bullet? What kind of weapon was it? Russia launches first hypersonic strikes on fuel and storage depots in Ukraine. Hypersonic missile. This is for real. General Milley, is this what you were talking about when you wanted to understand white rage?
It's important, actually, for those of us in uniform to be open-minded and be widely read. And the United States Military Academy is a university, and it is important that we train and we understand, and I want to understand white rage, and I'm white, and I want to understand it. So what is it that caused thousands of...
That's not, it didn't come across to me, at least, that you just wanted to read it to be more knowledgeable. Like if you read Karl Marx, you just want to find out what he was about. It sounded like you wanted to find out about white rage. And I don't know, maybe the Russians are showing it. Is this it? Russia fired its new generation Kinzhal hypersonic missile at targets in Ukraine at the weekend in the first combat use of a weapon that President Putin boasts can outwit any air defense system. This is serious technology, expensive. To me, it looks like it's confirmed. I saw several articles confirming it. We'll see. That's an escalation. Some people are saying they were running out of weapons and that's why they were using it. I've been reading all these different sources. Okay, well, so what happens when they run out of those? With the hypersonic missile, you can put any warhead on it. You can put a nuke on it. So that doesn't make me feel more comfortable that Ukraine's trying to use this strategy, in my opinion, where they're just trying to wait it out. So the U.S. puts a stranglehold on the ruble and Russian money. They hope China doesn't help out directly with money or anything. So Russia runs out of money and resources. And then what's Russia going to do? Even if China's helping out, what does Russia do? Like, they can't occupy Ukraine. They don't have enough money. They literally don't have enough money. So it sounds like, to me, it looks like, I'm just guessing. I'm not any expert. Just from what I'm reading it looks like, to me, they're just trying to hold out and say, okay, Russia's blown through all their money. That doesn't make me feel good, because once they hold out and all they have left are nukes, do you feel better or worse? especially with an embarrassed Putin, if that's the case. Can't take Ukraine. He's supposed to be the guy with the funny mustache and can't take Ukraine. I don't know what's really happening down there. But they launched these from a MiG fighter jet, and it can fly up to 10 times the speed of sound. Man, we will destroy this planet. Don't worry about that. I think the sun has about 1 billion years left. Don't worry about it. We ain't going to last 1 billion years. We'll see what AI does. Maybe AI accelerates our demise or helps us. I don't know. It is possible that when I say AI, I mean literally Neuralink, putting a chip in your brain. It might make us more civilized. Who knows? That's transhumanism. I'm getting a little bit off topic. But yeah, so I woke up and I had that this tweet here. So I'm looking at this, and this is my takeaway from it. I'm like, this is an escalation. And I was a little bit more vulgar than I normally am. But I was like, on this video that I posted, I didn't know. I thought it was a alleged video of the missile. It looks like it was a test, but I don't know. Whatever. It doesn't even matter. I'm tired of our politicians. They're acting like this is some kind of joke. They're going to mess around and get us all killed. Enough is enough. Ukraine needs to bend the knee. And that's just my standpoint from an American. And I don't see why. I mean, if Ukraine's doing this style of holding out, they're going to get their military killed, much of them. Citizens potentially too. 10 million displaced already. For what? I mean, what's the end goal? Just to hold out? We know we're going to suffer some losses and then Russia just stops? Well, all Russia does is refuel, rebuild, get money back, and then they just do it again. So people were coming at me, and which is fine, and they were saying, well, why would you tell them to take the knee and all that kind of stuff? And I asked one person on Twitter, do you believe in God? And they probably were taken back why I said that. But to me, I don't think they think about nature and life and the food chain. Like, I read this book with my son that has like all the ocean creatures in it. And one of the pages has the food chain. And at the top of the chain, I think on this page is the shark. And then it goes down to plankton. And that's how the world was created. Like, big fish takes little fish. Now, if Ukraine wants to be the, David to the Goliath, more power to them. They got to do what they do. But we don't need to send any money or troops over there for that. Well, I'm not seeing anything over there other than corruption. So, you take the knee because you're going up against somebody stronger. Figure it out. You had years upon years you could have done diplomacy. I also said the Ukrainian leaders, I'm going to talk about Zelensky, he put all his money on getting into a war and having Big Brother bail him out with whatever they needed to do. So he's running around the world telling Israel what's happening is like the Holocaust, telling the U.S. what's happening is like 9/11. No. That's not what's happening. This is not the same thing. It's a different scenario. There's different history here. And you got to handle this. If it weren't for the United States, the stuff we've already put into them, and of course other countries too, they would have already had to bend the knee. It would have been done already. So I said that it's almost like Ukraine is in, how you sign up for a service and there's different subscription levels? It's almost like Ukraine is in the starter pack, the NATO starter pack. When you go different check marks that you get to each level, and then the pro level is where Germany's at. Like if a shell hits a German tank, where it's on. And Ukraine's not at the pro level. They're at the starter pack level where, hey, if you get into a war, we'll give you some money and some, some weapons, not planes, because planes would be too much. This whole silly stuff about, oh, we'll give you some ammo and this and that. Oh, but we can't give you planes because that would be too much. I don't want us to give them anything, but that's what it comes across as. Let's stay out of it. That's my take about it. If they cared about their citizens and their military, they would stay out of it. Now they're finding out what white rage is. Let me know what you think. Zelensky's doing all kinds of crazy stuff. He's doing all kinds of crazy stuff that it's not very democratic what he's doing. If you look at it. I was watching David Doyle. David Doyle does a progressive show, and I was watching him the other day. That was actually today. He was talking about Zelensky. So I'm watching all the Zelensky moves. Like he's out here. He's got Legos. I don't know if you saw that. The propaganda is for real. Did you see the green screen? His green screen was about as bad as mine. I was laughing. He did a green screen, so we don't know where he is. He did this green screen video that looked just god awful, which to me, it was so bad. They should have just said, like in the corner screen, just so that they made it clear, like, we're not trying to pass this off as being real. We just want to hide our location. It was embarrassing. But I'm going to play this video from David Doyle, who his delivery is crisp. His presentation is really crisp. David Doyle. Even though I don't know, I don't agree with him on a lot.
Ukraine has banned 11 political parties within the country. Now, as I'll get to, there is more to it than just the headline. There is their justification for it. There is also a little more to the story in terms of how Ukraine is now attempting to unify the media. With all that said, it's important to lay out at the beginning of this video, none of these moves by Ukraine, which I may or may not agree with, in fact, I don't agree with them. I think they are largely incorrect. They are undemocratic moves.
So this is saying a lot because David Doyle is coming from the pro-Ukraine type, vibe.
That doesn't justify Putin's invasion of Ukraine. So you're going to see some people cover this story that are going to use this story and other stories similar moves that, in terms of Zelensky calling for a no-fly zone, which I also don't agree with, or what he's doing with the media. They will try and use this as a justification for Putin invading Ukraine.
That's a straw man. That the number one thing that you hear from these establishment people is they argue a point that most people aren't arguing. No, I'm not pro-Putin. Like Nick Fuentes is, but it's more of like a joke with him. It really is like a troll. It's a troll for marketing. But aside from him, who's out here pro-Putin? Let me know if I don't know anybody. I don't know anybody other than Fuentes who says I'm pro-Putin. The argument is the U.S. doesn't need to be in it. David Doyle never makes a convincing case as to why the U.S. needs to be involved at all.
Yet those same people, I assume, were against the Iraq War. Do you justify the U.S. invading Iraq because Saddam Hussein was a dictator? Probably not. So why are there people out there using stories like this to try and justify?
Nobody's justifying Putin going into Ukraine. You can say it's easy. I've said from Putin's standpoint, I can understand why. If I was Putin, I could understand why. You're playing a game of Risk. You're just trying to get the next country. If you've ever played Risk, it's that simple. You're trying to conquer the world. And it's that easy. So I can understand why Putin's doing it, but I'm not justifying it.
By Putin's invasion of Ukraine. Ask yourself that question. So there are, I mean, it's propaganda. People use this kind of story to push Putin's, propagandist message. I'm using this to simply point out that this is wrong, and at the same time, it doesn't justify a war that has misplaced tens of millions and, of course, killed many civilians in the process. So before I even get into this particular story about banning these parties and what Zelensky's doing with the media, this update just came out. The number of Ukrainians displaced by Russia's invasion has swelled to nearly 10 million, according to the UN. So it's important to understand, ultimately, this is what matters. This is what matters above all else. Not to say these other stories don't matter, but this clearly is what matters most. If you disagree with that, you're weird. There's something else going on.
I agree. He's talking about just your common people who have been displaced. Now, the problem is there's people all over the world being displaced. So the question is, why do you care about Ukraine more than anyone else? I think David Doyle has talked about others, so I'm not going to aim that at him, but I will aim that at our Congress, people in Congress, because I don't see the same energy for the thousands dead in Yemen, for example. That's just one place.
Up there. So, and it's amazing to see people that claim to be on the left heavily cover these stories about, the Azov battalion, which is a neo-Nazi battalion within Ukraine. Yes, that is terrible. Does that mean that Putin should invade Ukraine? Like, does that mean that Nazis?
No, see, that's a straw man. He's talking about guys like Nico House or Jimmy Dore, who will talk about, hey, there's a lot of these Yahtzees out there. Like, literally, they are the grandsons of people who served under the guy with the funny mustache. Legit to talk about.
Don't exist in any other military around the world. So, like, you have to be able to, absorb.
No, they don't exist like that in every military. We're not going to slide over that, David. That we have not seen every military across the world. Now, obviously, in the Middle East, you're going to have radicals in a different way. So I would say that for sure. But the bottom line is, why are we supporting Yahtzees? Literal, not this stuff like they call Nick Fuentes a white nationalist. I'm talking about literal neo-Nazis. We are supporting, funding. Back in the day, you might have seen that video on Twitter, Lindsey Graham talking to them, hyping them up. PBS just interviewed the mayor, I think it was the mayor of Kiev, and he had one of the famous Yahtzees that worked with the guy with the funny mustache on a portrait on his wall, and PBS is interviewing him like he's some guy we should be rallying around.
Stories like the banning of these parties and understand that is not a justification for war. So getting on to this story now about these parties being banned. This from The Guardian. The country's National Security and Defense Council took the decision to ban the parties from any political activity. Most of the parties affected were small, but one of them, the opposition Platform for Life, has 44 seats in the 450-seat Ukrainian parliament. Now, as I'll get to, Ukraine has a reason for why they are doing this. In particular, this party is clearly pro-Putin. It's obvious. That's what this party's about. There's some worry that Russia was going to try and use this party to replace Zelensky. That said, they have no power right now. As I'll get to, the leader of this party has fled. They have no idea where he even is. This is an undemocratic move. So you don't fight other undemocratic moves.
So I'm going to stop it here. So what he's talking about is all these emergency acts that Zelensky's doing to squash the opposition and control the media. So he's putting all the media, I think it's all television media, into one channel now that will be state basically sponsored, kind of like what we have here with CNN and pretty much every channel's, all programming except for Tucker, maybe Laura Ingraham sometimes, is pretty much establishment. So that's what they're doing over there. And they literally banned the political opposition. So the reason I'm bringing that up is that's not democratic. And we've had the same issues in our history here too. But they keep rallying like, hey, this is the democratic country. We have to save democracy. And this is what they're doing. It doesn't add up. So let me know what you think. That to me, and then David Doyle argues that, hey, they're the pro-Russian side. But that's not the only side. It's any opposition. There's a journalist over in Ukraine that's not pro-Putin. He just has questions for Zelensky, and I think he's missing. So again, everything's all alleged. There's a lot of propaganda, but if this is true, this doesn't add up to the democracy that you claim we need to save. So yes, that's my thoughts there. Let me take a look at the chat real quick. And then you will want to hear the next story is going to be on the 2024 election in Zuckerberg and how we might not be ready as a country. But there are some good news because it's midterms. So we have a little bit of time. Let's go take a look here. Okay, so we got, so Eric Smith says, I'm not pro-Putin, but if the U.S. is treating Ukraine like a playground for the CIA and giving Ukraine access to nukes because of NATO, I can see Putin's concern. Yeah, I think you have to be serious because we know that those in power in America, we know they are trying to see things from Putin's side. They just don't want us to see things from Putin's side. So we know that for sure. Cool. So let's look at this. This is, if you haven't looked at how involved Zuckerberg was through his, I think it's a foundation. It's how all these rich people are doing stuff. These foundations, Billy G, George S, Zuckerberg. It's all through these foundations. They basically act like government entities without any oversight. Can send dark money places. And in this case, I mean, they were pretty much out in the open because they knew it was legal. The laws didn't stop them. So they were out in the open with it. And notice it came down when he did this, Zuckerberg, he targeted the swing states. They knew exactly where to target with this stuff. So this is something to look at probably more for 2024 than 2022 this year, because it requires more of a deep democratic location to pull off. In the midterms, when you've got the swing, those districts that can go either way, or even in the Senate, then it's not as easy to pull off. Looking at that, so while I pull that up, Ray Studio says there is going to be a red wave this November. I would say so, assuming that the elections are all fair. It's going to be hard to stop it. They're not acting like it though. I mean, in some ways, you've seen a lot of retirements, but it's just weird. They're not making any changes. So we'll see. The election watchdog. Not ready for 2024. Still have many of the same problems. Let's talk about Georgia, and then we'll talk about Michigan, Wisconsin a little bit. Georgia passed a law claiming they banned private money in elections. They actually codified it, says Phil Klein, director of the Amistad Project. Election integrity issues from 2020 presidential election have yet to be resolved. So we're not ready for 2024. This is a warning from Phil. Phil was asked by Just the News, Not Noise, TV co-hosts John Solomon and Amanda Head if election integrity issues had been solved. He said, no, we still have many of the same problems because the legislators have not taken the time to understand the problem. Georgia passed a law, and they claimed that this law was Jim Crow 2.0. In his opinion, I'm not an expert on this yet. I haven't even read the actual bill, so I have to do some of that. But he says they actually codified it. They actually allowed Zuckerberg to do exactly what he did because they worded the law improperly. They didn't take the time to understand the problem. I do not assume ignorance with these people. They're not really, I don't know how much they're actually writing these laws. I don't know if it's the interest behind them or what, but I would not assume ignorance. Maybe it is, but I definitely wouldn't assume it. So he says they're actually codifying it, making it easier or right. Because a lot of these people are anti-Trump. They're anti, so being anti-Trump means they're anti-you. They're anti-you and me, just common people, whether you're MAGA or not. So that they don't want Trump to win. In the months leading up to November's election, voting officials in major cities and countries worked with a progressive group funded by Facebook founder Mark Zuckerberg and its allies to create ballots. What? Did you know this was happening? This news actually came out, I think late last year or even earlier, probably. I didn't know the depth. I did not know the depth. Zuckerberg through these groups, not directly, they worked with a group to help create ballots, to create the ballots in these deep blue areas to maximize the turnout. They do all these studies to say, hey, what does the ballot need to look like? And man, they get deep into this stuff. Strategically targeted voters and developed cure letters in situations where mail-in ballots were in danger of being tossed out. All of this was, in Wisconsin, they didn't think it was legal. I think they considered it bribery. But I think it was legal in some of these other areas. And just for my YouTube overlords, I'm not questioning anything. Joe Biden is my president. He's on the throne. So if you're on the throne, you're on the throne. It doesn't matter how you get there. But we need to look at this to we got to restore faith in this process. So this one here is from a different article. This is from Wisconsin. So Wisconsin, they actually court justice run a special investigation, and the details exposed said this is the same thing that they were doing in Michigan, Georgia. So Zuckerberg put up all this money and was doing it everywhere. And they said the details exposed the numerous questionable and unlawful actions of various actors in the 2020. The first unlawful action, according to the report, concerned the payment of grant funds to 5 Wisconsin counties that were used to facilitate voting. So these groups are going straight to the government to design the ballots, to write the cure letters. I mean, it's basically like, my opinion, like Zuckerberg was running it by proxy. This is deep. Gableman was the justice. He's the one that said it was like bribery. Yeah. So one of these groups is called Center for Tech and Civic Life Partner. The Center for Civic Design helped design the absentee ballot forms and instructions. These are establishment groups here. So when you say left, I mean left as an establishment, not like populist left. So they did the absentee ballots, the instructions, the voter registration letters for felons, and tested automatic voter registration systems in several states. What? They tested all this, making sure that it would bring out what they wanted, working alongside progressive activist groups in Michigan and directly with elections offices in Georgia and Utah. They were running this thing. Woo! In exchange for the money, elections divisions, and whenever somebody comes around with money, the government is like, yes, I will take it. I'll do whatever you want. I'll take it. In exchange for the money, elections divisions agree to conduct their elections according to the conditions set out by the Center for Tech and Civic Life. So that's basically set out by Zuckerberg. Zuckerberg gave the money to these groups through maybe, I don't know, through his organization or something. And then they agreed to the conditions by the organization. So if you ask Zuckerberg, hey man, it sounds like you had a lot of say in that, he'd be like, no. That was the civic that was the Center for Tech and Civic Life. That wasn't me. They play too many games. It was led by former members of the new Organizing Institute. Like you definitely need a whiteboard. Like we've already rattled off 3 different organizations. I don't think I even rattled off the Zuckerberg organization. So you got 4 different organizations, and that's not even all of it. The Training Center for Progressive. So the new Organizing Institute is this leftist organization, and I put this on here just to remember. So they've done digital operations at groups like Planned Parenthood, the unions. This is just an establishment group. So Facebook partnered with them, and then they provided a guide and webinar for the election. These are the government election officials at the county level on how to engage voters. Do you think that the Center for Tech and Civic Life are helping the election officials engage Trump supporters? Included were directions. I'm sure they would say, no, we're impartial. I guarantee you if they were to be asked, they'd be like, no, we're impartial. Included were directions to report voter interference to Facebook authorities. So Facebook has their own Supreme Court. They have their own Supreme Court that ruled on Donald Trump being banned. Who are Facebook authorities? Like, it's like they got their own police force that they're gonna run up in there and fix this voter interference. The company also provided designated employees. Wait for this. In 6 reasons of the U.S. to handle questions. This isn't it yet, but this is going to be crazy. And together, the group strategically targeted voters and aimed at low-income and minority residents who typically shun election participation, helping Democrat candidates win key spots all over the U.S. I would love to ask those that they reached out to, do you really think that they care about you? And tell me why. Maybe they do. Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe there's something there. I don't see it. Still other groups with progressive leaning. Here's another one, Main Street Alliance. The election group and the National Vote at Home Institute provided support for some election offices. I'm losing track of how many groups were involved. Money all over the place, groups all over the place. This has never been done before, ever. We hear about dark money. This isn't dark money. They did this out in the open. Y'all just weren't ready or complicit. The states didn't have laws against it, many of them. So if it's not illegal, more power to them. They wanted it more. Period. And really, Trump should have been on this stuff. Can't blame him. Nobody's perfect and his team, but they weren't on this. They didn't know. They were hit blindsided by this stuff. Zuckerberg did not respond to an email request. I thought I put this. This one was crazy here. Yeah, this is it here. So they had vote navigators in Wisconsin to assist voters potentially at their front doors to answer questions, assist in ballot curing, and witness absentee ballot signatures. A temporary staffing agency affiliated. There's another group with Stacey Abrams, Happy Faces, counted the votes. They literally, with these vote navigators, so listen to this. This is the one that really got me crazy. So according to court documents filed by the Thomas More Society, a conservative law firm, the Zuckerberg-funded Center for Tech and Civic Life allowed elections departments to use grant money to buy vehicles to transport voter navigators. So they were driving these people around the government. The group filed unsuccessful lawsuits in several states before the election, contending private funding created unconstitutional public-private partnerships. So in these Democratic areas, you've got big apartment complexes. They're driving around with these vote navigators. They're probably doing ballot harvesting too. So, hey, I just fill out the ballot. I'll take it back. They had drop boxes illegally in some places all over the place. Where's the custody? Where's the chain of command on these random drop boxes that are basically Zuckerberg boxes. This is crazy, man. And then after the election, they banned Trump from Facebook. Like, who's running the country? So they're all in the most key. The only places that mattered in the election were the swing states. That's it. So they got a stronghold on that. Then after it was done, Trump can still run again. But you know what? They're like, nah, let me try to cut you off real quick. And it shouldn't be surprising. There's all these connections between the establishment and the big tech. I was just listing the names of people. 45 employees who previously worked or volunteered with the Hillary campaigns, the Obama campaigns, or the Obama White House are now employed. This article was as of 2018, I think, from Breitbart. They were employed by Facebook, Facebook-owned companies, or the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative. That's the group I didn't mention. This does not include Facebook employees who do not have a LinkedIn, because the only way they could test it is by LinkedIn accounts. So it could have been more than 45. They found one person that was a former Trump. The search for former Trump staffers returned 0 profiles unless you count the Facebook Industry Insights lead, probably low level, who interned at Ivanka Trump's company in 2012. That was before everyone was so radical against Trump. And I bet she had to bend the knee or just denounce Trump to even get on board. So Google has the same kind of ties. But here's the end, the good end. With the midterm elections, however, the swing congressional seats do not have that ideological conformity as that you need in like deep blue counties like Fulton. So we're safer in 2022. That makes sense to me because of that. We just need to know about 2024. Let me know what you think. And then that's just Zuckerberg. We don't know what other, like George S. I don't know if Billy G. I didn't even look into that. I'm just looking at Zuckerberg. Imagine, well, we know Bloomberg put a lot of money in. I don't know where he put it in. I think he bought a lot of TV ads, which is not as effective as it used to be. But bottom line is he put a lot of money in himself. So that you really have to follow the money in this stuff. You really do. It did make me feel better though to know, okay, at least in 2022, it's not going to be as easy. Now, maybe they have another plan. I don't know. Something in the back of my head tells me there has to be another plan. They can't be out here with such a bad platform. So you want to talk about the Democrat platform. It can't be this bad. There's no way. I don't think it's ever been this bad in my life. I really don't. I don't think, let me show you how bad it is. It's never been this bad before. I've never seen anything like this before. And, maybe it's recency bias. Like, I just don't remember about the past. But I don't remember it. I don't remember seeing anything like this. This craziness. Let me show you here. This is an article you might have seen. A lot of people were sharing it from Bloomberg. Speaking of Bloomberg, so we're talking about inflation. And what does that really mean for common people? So Bloomberg Opinion, which has provided us some of the shadiest articles, opinion pieces that you can find. So this is the Democrat midterm. That's why I bring this up. This is basically the Democrat midterm strategy right before your eyes. I want you to absorb this. That's why I say, that's why I say something must be up. Bloomberg Opinion, inflation stings most if you earn less than $300,000. Here's how to deal. Take the bus. Don't buy in bulk. Try lentils instead of meat. Nobody said this would be fun. What does that mean? I honestly don't know what they meant by that one, other than just taking a jab at common people. Nobody said this would be fun. Wow. Nobody said what would be fun. What, voting for Biden? Or, I mean, it's not all on Biden. A lot of the spending started under Trump. But I don't understand what they even mean. Biden has had policies that have only made this worse, though. So I don't blame Biden for the inflation. I just look at his policies and they don't make sense. And we're still spending money like crazy. It's funny. This is coming from an organization. This is coming from Bloomberg, remember? Who has one of the wealthiest owners in America. And they're basically telling you to suck it up. Nobody said this would be easy. Said what would be easy? Well, why don't you take that $14 billion that you're going to designate to Ukraine and just keep it here? Like, and then we could tell you nobody said this would be fun. The Democrat Party just really spitting in the face of common people. That's why you think they should get destroyed. It's just completely out of touch. 99% of Americans, they earn less than $300,000. So why would they even phrase it like that? Why wouldn't they just say inflation stings most? Well, why didn't they just say here's how to deal with inflation? So really spitting in your face for no reason. The article, it could have just said, or this tweet, what's the title of the article? Yeah, that's the title of the article. And I read the article. There's nothing in it to bring to the table, so I'm not going to talk about it. Just the title describes what the article is. Now, let me say, everything that they said in the article is not wrong, but Elon Musk provided better feedback in his thread about inflation than this article. I didn't understand the don't buy in bulk. Now, obviously, you don't want to buy stuff in bulk that's going to perish, that's going to spoil. But I didn't understand that because I think buying in bulk might make sense if you think the price of the items, I don't know, canned food or whatever it is going to go up if it's cheaper. So maybe I missed that part in the article, but I didn't understand that one. Try lentils instead of meat. Man, they are out here fooling. Like that was one step away from cicadas. They were just out here about to say, go find a cicada. It's just, nobody said this would be fun. It's basically, you could say, inflation stings the most if you're in the bottom 99%. That's everyone. Basically, the Democrat Party has become the party of the 1%. That's what that is. This is a Democrat outlet. It's a Democrat guy. He ran for president as a Democrat. The slogan for Democrats in 2024, eat lentils and stop crying. Go find some lentils to eat. You're going to, no steak for you. You get lentils. They've been going, since the pandemic, they've gone completely mask off. They hate you. They hate us. And they're basically saying, do your part. We do what we do. The 1% will do what we do. We're going to have our steak. We're going to fly the private jets. We don't give a damn about the emissions, but you do your part. It's just like they could have just said, here's how to be a peasant. Here's how to be a good peasant. How about build back better? How's that going? How's that phrase going? The original sin here. Don't put that on there. Because I was for the payments. But here's why. It's the same thing that they did with Ukraine. The original act is bad, so every other decision puts you in a bad place. And the original act was lockdowns. And that was under Trump federally, but it was really more of a state-by-state thing. And Trump wanted to open up, obviously, he wanted to open up like a month later and got all this pressure not to. So I'm not making excuses for him, but the original sin was locking down and choosing winners and losers. That's what it was. So once you locked down, you chose, I love Elon, but Tesla could operate, Amazon could operate, Walmart could operate, your small businesses couldn't operate. Then you started doing these loans, these PPP loans or whatever. Why do they call them loans? I don't know of anybody paying those things back. I just know of a lot of fraud with it. So you dole out that money. So the original sin was lockdowns. Then after lockdowns, the problem was the money in these packages didn't just go to people. They broke off BlackRock. They broke everybody off on the way. If the money had just gone, the 1,200, 1,400 to people, and that was it, then it still wouldn't have been good, but we wouldn't have had as much money in currency. So that's the original sin. So don't be condescending with this advice if you don't talk about what the problem is too. It's almost like that, let them eat cake is basically what it is. Let them eat lentils. Have you ever had lentils? I mean, lentils lentils substitute for meat. Why don't we talk about what could be done now? Which I just read an article, I think, that said Biden is going to open up domestic oil and gas leases. I don't know, or drilling. So I have to look into that. But yeah, we need to do that. We need to stop spending, cut taxes. What common people need to take away from this is you've got to vote them all out. They're savage. They're making fun of you. They know the people on their side don't think independently, so they can just make fun of them while making fun of everyone else who's a dissident. So I guess, you know what? This is the cost for fighting for democracy. Lentils. we're at the lentil stage already. What's going to happen 5 years from now? This message would be, the same article could have been written by Santa Claus, Mr. Schaub. They can tell their own voters they hate them, as all they have to do is say the opposition is racist, and they're back at it again. Let me know what you think. Inner City Dispute said, I've never eaten a lentil, whatever that is. Right? I've had lentils. My wife's made some meals with lentils. You have it with like a fish meal or something like that. Like lentils and salmon or something like that would go together. Could have it like a salad. They're not really tasty. Can someone describe what lentils taste like? I mean, I hate to say it, but they kind of taste a little bit like dirt. Sorry, man. Don't worry about that steak this summer. You're gonna have a little dirt patty. Democrats are so close to saying, just eat that dirt, you freaking peasant. You dumbass, let us put a muzzle on you for 2 years. You're gonna eat dirt. We eating good this summer. Oh man. Yeah, they kind of taste like beans. I like beans better. Can I say Arizona Patriot, do they taste like dirty beans? I mean, I don't mind lentils, but if you're gonna tell me like you're gonna have to replace your burger with lentils, like I'm gonna be like, nah, bruh. Nah, we good. I'm gonna have to vote you out of office. I don't want anybody to suffer over in Ukraine or anywhere in the world, but I'm not eating lentils, man. That's like we're accustomed to a certain way of living in the U.S., man. I know we're spoiled, and a lot of that's because of the military-industrial complex strong-arming everybody into using the dollar for petrol. But I don't know, man. That's not the campaign slogan that I would recommend. It's just not. That's just not the way to go, man. But I don't mind it every once in a while. We had what did we have? Like I like quinoa. I don't mind quinoa. I like rice though. So I'm a big rice person. You know, that's not unusual. My parents are Jamaican. I grew up eating rice with every meal. Oh, okay. Thank you. Eric Smith said lentils and beans all fall under the legumes. My wife would definitely know that. She knows all about that kind of stuff. I don't know all the, what is it? I don't even know. Is that a food group? I don't even know what that's called, but yeah, they're not bad. I don't want to knock lentils. They got their place. Like if you want to diversify your dinners and stuff like that, but not like they want it to be. That's some old other stuff right there. I'm just like, man, that is a hell of a, going into the midterms, isn't that one hell of a, isn't that a hard sell? I don't know what to say, man. It's just, that's a hard sell. Vote for us and eat lentils. Damn. And then Mayor Pete, we know about Mayor Pete was talking about casually, buying an electric car. And that's not, I mean, this is not something that people can do easily, bruh. Why would you, I don't know. It's like they're just out of touch. I talked about Joy Behar on the View, how she was like, she wanted to go to Italy, and she was kind of upset that the stuff had popped off. And the real reason she was upset was because she couldn't get to go to Italy. Huh? That's why you're upset? Yikes. I'm like, whoa, that's crazy. But thanks for joining. If you can, I'm still going to be going for a little bit longer. The challenge here is I got to edit all this stuff. So I want to do a bunch of stuff, edit it, then upload it to the other channel. But then if I do too many, am I really going to ever edit it? So you see the dilemma of a YouTuber, but whatever. It's just to have fun. The East is rising. Do I have the tweet in here? Yeah. So this is the tweet that sparked this. Greg IP said, Xi Jinping says the East is rising. He's been saying this for a while. The East is rising. The West is declining. He's wrong. China may be rising, but Russia and their assorted allies sure aren't. The West has a towering advantage in GDP, key industries, and technology. Here's how it should use those assets. So I'm reading that, and I said, okay, because I'm open to either side. But he said, okay, you said that he's wrong in that the East, these Eastern country, Eastern philosophy is rising and the West is declining. That's from Xi Jinping, and he's wrong. So is this propaganda? Okay. Why do you say it's wrong? His reasoning here, he's like, whoa, the West has a towering advantage in GDP. And I'm like, that's the reason why you think he's wrong? Because you're looking at the GDP right now? I think you might need to rethink that. That can change. And so let's look at this here, a couple of things. So he's looking at the GDP, and for the East, he did Russia, China, other. The East is really just China right now. But I don't know who's considering in the other. But, when you look at it, the GDP is rising for both. I mean, when you look at China, you look at the East, China's really the only one. The West just has numbers. But what's happening is China's trying to pick off the West. They're trying to change that. They're not satisfied with the way it is now. He said the East is rising, the West is declining. That doesn't mean the East is above the West right now. Listen to what he's saying. He's not even trying to sell his people that the East is above the West right now. He's saying the East is rising. That's different. That's not the same thing. So he's saying we're on the rise. They're on the decline. So he's been saying this. This article is from from when COVID, I think around COVID, yeah, post-COVID, like right a little bit after it started, he said that. He said the biggest source of chaos in the present day world is the United States. So that's what Xi is saying. People, we don't know what a man and a woman is. We are a source of chaos. That can't be argued. We don't understand how to define that in the realm of society. We don't agree on that. We are definitely the biggest source of chaos. We've got all this racial stuff and all these other things going on. We are pure chaos. So he's right. And then he talks about United States being the biggest threat. The reason why I highlighted that is the United States doesn't agree that China is the biggest threat. We all don't even agree with that here. We know about the school situation. So this is the youth upcoming. We know about how it's viewed, how China views things versus how America views things. That matters. So Greg, who had the initial post that said GDP, he didn't take any of this into account. Greg, it's not just GDP. It's not.
But what do you call me as your teacher?
Teacher Roby.
So you know my pronouns are they, them. You know that you go by, or I go by Teacher Roby. What are your pronouns?
She, her.
Very good. And
Like that's America. This is China. Ready for class. Like this is the intro. Like this is the warm up. There's a lot. There's a lot to this in what he was saying. I talked about when jumping after Saudis consider using it in the oil deals. India was as well. I clipped this article from Vox to end with. So Vox, the headline of this article from Vox is located where? DC or New York? Like this is, I think their headquarters is like right DC or New York somewhere. I mean, it's like American. Why America can't rely solely on individuals to stop the pandemic. The countries that defeated the pandemic have done so. Wait for it. Jeez. Collectively. They basically put a headline that said, we need to go away from the Western foundation of individualism to collectivism. Right there. The U.S.'s individualistic approach isn't working. So Greg, you're talking about the GDP? You don't understand what Xi Jinping's talking about. This is an American outlet talking about Eastern philosophy. So that GDP you see there, Xi Jinping's like, some of that GDP is going to be our GDP. We're basically going to turn the West into the East. Greg completely missed the boat on that. Or I don't know if it was on purpose or accident. I don't know what. We've got actors who have to apologize in Chinese. Why? What was the crazy thing that John Cena said? What did he say that was so crazy that he had to apologize to China? He said Taiwan is the first country to watch Fast and Furious 9. He called Taiwan a country and had to apologize for it, like it was a hostage video. When does someone in China have to apologize to America? Have you seen that? When's the last time you've seen that? Have you seen the John Cena equivalent in China have to speak English and apologize to America? When that happen? That's not happening. Never happened. I've never seen it happen. Never will happen. It was a pathetic show of display. China's like, we're going to jump up on Taiwan while y'all playing around with white rage. That's the philosophy that we're instilling in your military. While you're finding out what white rage is, we're going to go up on Taiwan and take these chips. Now, I don't know if that's going to happen. Who knows? Hopefully it doesn't. If that does happen, this doesn't mean anything. That tweet was just so far off. I had to say something. Let me know what you think. These people out here, man. That tweet was, man. You could, if you want to talk about it straight from the GDP, I guess that's fine, but it's, what does that mean? Like and then I talk about the going to the yuan. The dollar could decrease in value as well. So what does that GDP mean with a dollar that isn't worth as much? Not even talking about inflation, just like basically the dollar just not being worth anything anymore. That's not going to happen overnight, but all those things put together is the sandwich that Xi Jinping is talking about. You gotta peep game, man. And I always leave room to be wrong. So let me know where I might be wrong on that or what I might be missing. One of my favorite YouTubers is young Eric July. And it's rare when I strongly disagree with him. This is one of those rare moments. Let's take a look.
Just to not just reiterate, but more so expand, I guess, on one of these points. You saw me post about this, be it in my video, or I spoke about this in my video. I also posted about this on social media. And basically, I've said that I'm not going to exert more energy to try to protect women's sports than the women themselves. And I think...
So you might know where he's going with this. This is a Leah Thomas topic. And Eric July is going to go down the route of the women who play in the sport have to speak out. And so it's hard for me to... So yeah, I understand what you're saying in a vacuum, but there are problems with this take. Tim Pool has the same take. I disagree strongly.
The context of that is so uber important. Now, obviously, this expands, or the reason why this is a thing is because of the Leah Thomas situation, the transgendered athlete who has now won the NCAA's champ. And considering that, you know, you have this aspect of, you know, people are going to gripe, but you notice one thing in that particularly the athletes themselves are having to, or they feel like they have to, say things in secrecy. They're still going to get out there and compete. They're going to, only anonymously voice their positions to, aside from a...
To my knowledge, I don't know if any of them have spoken out publicly and put their name on it, that they're unhappy with the Leah Thomas. And I'm not going to take a side on the Leah Thomas in this video. That's a very shaky thing to do. And my point isn't that. So you see where Eric's going with this.
Couple voice their positions to the world. Remember, Outkick covered some of those UPenn athletes basically being undercover. They're not gonna out themselves. And I'm sitting here like, well, that's weird because, you know, you are the one that's losing here. The sanctity of your sport is being destroyed here, and you're not gonna say shit for what? Now, again, context matters. Point I brought up was a couple of points. Let's start here. I'll bring up the first one. This whole progressive feminist bullshit. First of all, they always tell men to shut the fuck up and not speak on these issues. Anyway, so there's that. But think about it like this. That same group, this isn't a secret. You know, factually speaking, that this movement has been at the forefront of it. Not saying exclusively. I'm just saying at the forefront from it, and as the dominating demographic when it comes to these particular issues, by all statistical data points that you can go look at, are women, more specifically white women, but women nonetheless, okay? When it comes to these issues. So, that being said, this is something that, of course, is impacting women, especially white women, because most swimmers certainly are white women in this country, at least. So I'm like, if you can't defend yourself or you're not going to attempt to defend yourself, I'm not saying that you got to win, but you get what it is I'm saying. Exert some sort of effort. Why is it an expectation for people around you to do it? Now, I get it. Some of you are parents and whatnot, and that's totally fine. But at the end of the day, athletes are the ones losing. There's two things that get brought up. One, they're too young. Two, they're afraid of losing their scholarships. Both of those are fucking bullshit. And I'm going to explain to you why. First of all, you cannot say that I am speaking out of pocket here, that I don't understand the experience.
So I agree with him that the first one, if you say that they're too young, I haven't heard that argument. That doesn't make any sense. The second one is where I have a problem.
Track and field athlete, still the current 100-meter record holder in 55, but 100-meter record holder for Texas A&M, not even 10 years removed from it. Okay, so I'm not speaking out of pocket here, number one. But this is the hilarious thing, and this is the part where you know I'm fucking right on. You could send Ben Shapiro to a collegiate campus to speak about this very issue, and you are not going to get any shortage of young college students screaming, including athletes, screaming, yelling their heads off, having no problem voicing their concerns on this literal issue, on this same exact issue. You can say Matt Walsh there, you can say Ben.
But that doesn't help Eric's argument to me. What you see there is the chilling of free speech. What he's talking about are these type of displays, like when this father who lost custody of his child who wanted to transition went to go speak at this school, he got dealt with this. Do you remember what happened at the Wee Spa? A woman went into the Wee Spa and complained that there was a situation in the bathroom that didn't feel right. Because I think they were in the women's bathroom and there was men's private parts that were exposed. And she's like, wait, hold up. What's going on here? They rioted. After that. There was another situation at the school, I think this was the same school here, where they literally rioted. Come on, y'all. That's not fair to put all of that weight on these athletes to have to stand up. Young July here was saying, well, when Matt Walsh comes through or those things come through, you see all them. F these fascists. They're not going against the establishment. They're swimming downstream. We do not see stuff on campuses like we used to maybe back in the day, or maybe it really wasn't down upstream, but we don't see protests against the establishment coming out of these universities. So you want to ask them, you're comparing those people who have the backing of the university. They're not going against the university. They have the full support and backing. The university would never suspend them or expel them for that. These athletes would have to put everything on the line. They would get kicked out. They would get shunned. They would be labeled bigots. Do you think these people yelling F fascists are called any kind of name on campus? They're heralded as heroes. So they could do that. They could speak up and risk it all. They would be heroes if they did, like Tamara Litch did in the Canadian convoy. But we can't. How can you ask them to do that? Tim Pool, Eric July, myself, what are you putting up on the table to go against the stream relative to what they would have to put up. They would get kicked out of school. They would fear for their life. In that one protest I just played, the woman who put together that had the father come through, she said she was fearing for her life. She got threats. Do they look like they're playing around? They're not right mentally. So if you have them going against that group with what army? It's like Ukraine against Russia. That's not fair to ask. So if you don't want to step in and say anything, do you? But I think we all have a role in pointing out we got to protect people's ability to say these things. You can't do anything on the college campuses. But with the We Spa and all these other things, there's no way. How can they speak out? They can, but they'll be risking it all. And it is fair to say, if I'm going to tell them to risk it all, I'm not risking all that. So I would never tell them to do that. I would never expect them to do that. If Tamara Litch, she's just in my mind because I think she's a heroine. She's just in my mind risking it all. She had a comfortable life, well off, and had no gains in risking it all to put together the convoy. Risked her family. She has that picture with like a baby in her arms. So if she wants to do that, I'm going to call her a heroine, but I would never expect her to. And if you can, Eric, use your platform or anyone else, to use your platform to say, I got your back for your right to, even me, I'm not even going to side. I'm just going to say you have a right to your opinion. I mean, it's a little something. Unless you are putting up what they are risking, like Black Lives Matter, if you do a Black Lives Matter protest on campus, you're not going against the campus. You're not risking expulsion. You're not risking being called a bigot. You should be, but you're not. So it's not the same thing. You look silly trying to expect them to do that. That doesn't make any sense. They're just trying to go to school. And they get kicked out of this school. You think they're going to be able to apply to another school? Like, this is like Antifa infecting the whole country. That's why this Antifa in Portland matters. I'm not speaking out against that at the school. For what? What am I going to do? I'm against the whole student body. Again, it's David versus Goliath. If somebody wants to do that, props to you. Prayers to you. Do you. But that's not a winning battle. That's why they're not speaking out. For what? What's the upside? They would have to be, it's a kamikaze mission. Come on, Eric, you can't expect them to do that. You can't compare those protests to what they would have to do. Babylon Bee got banned off of Twitter. This Dave Chappelle, this has become, for whatever reason, a protected group. So you've got to be really, if you're going to do something, it's going to have to make sense. You're putting it all on the line. You're putting all the chips on the table. And I can't ask them to do that. So I know some people in the chat were saying that it's on them. It's not on, and I don't care about the feminist take either from Young, and I think I saw that in the chat too. I don't care. This is a moment there where our interests might converge. We don't agree on a lot of other things, maybe, I don't know, but here we might agree. I don't care about the feminist angle because he said, well, the feminists, they don't want my view in it anyway. I really don't care. If wherever we intersect and we can get together and make a move, then let's make a move. Let me know what you think. I'm going to pull some comments out here. The problem with risking it all is that we're the minority. The silent majority will not help. Yes, I'm going to comment. Great point. And the general masses are moving leftward, especially the young people. I'm not sure the pendulum will swing back. Yes. So the part that I didn't mention it because I was thinking in my head, though. Casual Goats, first of all, I didn't even give you a shout out. Shout out, Possum Friend, everybody in the chat. He said the silent majority. I would be willing to bet you if you did a completely anonymous poll of the school, the majority would side with, let's figure something else out. Not being bigoted or mean-spirited. I don't know if it's rules or what, but let's figure, because this doesn't feel right. What's happening with Leah Thomas? Nothing against Leah, but it's just like, it just doesn't feel right. Can we figure something out that's fair for all people? I guarantee you would have 60+%. But what Pat Casual Goats is saying, how many of those are silent? So you've got the radicals who on the campus might be, I'm just making these numbers up, 10%. And then you've got the people who would speak out, they would be less than 1%. So then you've got like 90% of the university just going to be silent because I don't want those problems. That's the power of this informal social credit score that we have right now in our country. And I will be honest with you, I tackle many topics. This one, I'm staying out of it, man. They don't play with this one. The pandemic, climate change, the Biden, I'll go hard off of Biden, Pelosi. On this one, I'm like, yeah. I'm like, that meme from the dude, I forgot his name, y'all told me in the chat. He's like, I'm just going to I'd rather stay around so I can. Babylon B is like, okay, let's talk about Babylon B. That's fitting. It's a good segue into here. So Babylon B is like, no, I'm like that. But Babylon B got suspended. Babylon B got suspended from Twitter. And it's a significant part of this. It goes right along with all the other things. When I did a video on the Dave Chappelle thing, and I'm not siding with Dave Chappelle because he's an identitarian. He's just an identitarian with he's an identitarian. He's just having an inter-squad battle for identity with this group here. And I'm not into any identity like that, man. So I'm not into your inter-squad battle. I will intersect with him where we agree, but I'm not like on a Dave Chappelle side. That's for damn sure. But let me show you here. If you haven't known, this happened yesterday at this point. But Babylon B got suspended. And here's what happened. This is from Post Millennial. They got suspended over a hateful content over a Rachel Levine joke. I think it's pronounced Levine. I apologize if that's wrong. And I'm not going to read the offending tweet because I don't want to offend, but I just want to talk about what happened. It fits right with the topic. They've wanted to get rid of Babylon B. They've had some satire is really biting. Like it's not the same as sarcasm, but if you have someone who's very sarcastic, I've seen people who are very sarcastic and who don't know how to turn it off get into fights because they don't know how to turn it off. And sarcasm can be really biting, just like satire or parody. So they tried to make fun of the U.S. Assistant Health Secretary. And I tweeted I don't think it was this one. I think it was a different one. I tweeted at Babylon B. I was like, man, y'all are going to get banned playing around with this topic. Just stay away from it. There's a ton of other topics to talk about to try and shift the Overton window. But no, and I respect them. I hate to chill free speech, but I'd rather be around to talk about the other 80-90% of stuff that I want to talk about. You just got to be smart. That Tim Pool's great at that. Steven Crowder's terrible at that. Everybody has their strengths and weaknesses. They said that they violated the hateful conduct with this headline. If you see the headline down there. So they're out there censoring, dominating Twitter. So Twitter said to Babylon B, you get 12-hour ban. The clock will start counting down from 12 hours when you delete the tweet. Same thing happened to Eric July. I don't know what happened with Eric July. I don't know how he got back. I don't think he deleted the tweet. He's not one to delete, but maybe he did. I don't know. I don't remember what happened, but they said they're not deleting it. Babylon B. So they've banned obviously Marjorie Taylor Greene, but she's on there with her political account still, but she doesn't use it much. She does not. I don't know if it's because the tweets are on record or I don't know what, but she doesn't use that much anymore. Maybe she just wants to save it. But, we know Levine was picked by Joe Biden, the first ever female 4-star admiral and first openly transgender 4-star officer in public health service. So it's not someone that you make fun of and it's just like no big deal. Here's my takeaway. I would rather save my criticism. This reminds me exactly of the Mayor Pete Buttigieg and Dave Rubin. Dave Rubin and his, I think his husband, right? Dave Rubin and his husband are, I don't know if they found a surrogate, but they're looking for a surrogate or whatever to have a child. And my response is, I wish y'all nothing but the best of luck. But, there's people who are, I don't know, they got concerns about it. That's authoritarian-ish type stuff. This is people who are typically more into organized religion that say that's not the lifestyle I approve of. I'm like, okay, nobody said you had to approve of David Rubin's lifestyle. Do you? He does him. But, there's authoritarianism on both sides. Mayor Pete Buttigieg took the pregnancy leave. The criticism that I would have had was it communicated that he was on leave? Him and his husband have twins. I'm good with them on leave. I wish you the best on that. No problem with that. Was there communication he was on leave? It was confusing. I didn't know he was on leave until he came back. And then after that, who did you put in charge while we're in like dire straits? So I'm not attacking him for the leave. And this is the same thing with Rachel Levine. I'm attacking her for this. Pennsylvania health official moved, this is from May 2020, right in the heart of this thing, moved mother from nursing home. So she said, my mother requested and my sister and I as her children complied. Okay. So she moved out. She was 95 years old at the time. She's very intelligent and she's trying to, so you see Rachel's trying to say, I didn't move her out. She wanted to move out. Okay. Well, whatever you want to call it, you moved a bunch of people in and they died. So I don't have no problem with anything else. I'm going to talk about substance. And I think people on the right are cringe because they keep going down the wrong route. And Babylon B, I fully support their right, free speech, to make the joke. And it's very concerning if there's a protected class for whatever reason or protected people that you can't make a joke of. That is really concerning. But for me, that's not the route I would have gone. You got to understand where we are in this battle. We're losing the battle. Got to be real about it. And let me know what you think. Conservatives are weak, Casual Goat says. Let's look at this. Beep, beep. Thanks for stopping by. They hobble conservatives. There is no open debate. They can say and call you anything you want. The conservatives don't have that luxury. Don't. So I'll create that economy. You got to make moves. You got to make smart moves. Twitter owns they run the platform. I think it's illegal. It's unconstitutional because they're hooked up with the government. But what's the Constitution? Is not some magic wand. So I think we need to talk about breaking up. The topic shouldn't be about, the gender and all that. It should be about, we need to break up. We need parallel economy. We need to talk big picture. And then Ted Cruz was on there and he sounded pathetic. He didn't say anything bad or wrong. He was just saying stuff like, basically this shouldn't happen. And it's like, man, Twitter's so powerful that a active senator like Ted Cruz is like a hapless, he's feckless. He can't do anything. They're way more powerful than him. Some people say the right is too polite. Okay. I think Twitter is a battleground you want to be on. So Babylon B not being on Twitter is very harmful. So help me understand why the trade-off is worth it. Where you could have just kept that joke. We know that was going to be a concern. Maybe Babylon B's like, we'll get some publicity, and then once it dies down, then we'll delete it. It could be a stunt. They're very smart, so they knew it was going to be a problem. I knew it was going to be a problem. We all knew. So, hey, let me know like what you think on that. Those are decisions that a lot of people are going to be making, but with them off of Twitter, it's a problem. I'll just tell you that. It really is a problem. So I'm going to go to the last segment here. I think I want to end it on a good note, try to do that. And I think this is a good note. Hopefully this audio is good enough. The audio was kind of lame, but let's see. U.S. senators met with the truckers. If you don't know, the People's Convoy is going on right now. No one's covering it. So let me set this up. This was 10 days ago about, I think. The People's Convoy is going on, and they're not leaving. They're circling D.C. They're being very respectful. I want to play some of this, listen to them. I have a slight criticism, but I don't want that to overshadow the courage. We're just talking about heroes. Like, they're putting a lot on the line here for this. And I'll play this here. And they had a talk with the senator. It was passionate. Let's hope this audio works.
Boys have joined up with us. We're not going anywhere. We're not going to leave. We're going to stay put. We're going to keep doing what we're doing until we start getting more meetings like we just had today. Our demands, if you want to say, have been pretty clear. And the state of emergency and the vaccine mandates. And let's start holding both our elected and unelected officials accountable for their actions that led to this through bipartisan congressional hearings and investigations into the origins of the pandemic and the federal government's and state government's response to this pandemic.
So the demands are that you meet with, because out in Hagerstown you guys had mentioned that you guys wanted to meet with every single lawmaker. Are those the demands for you guys to end, once you get all those meetings, then to go home?
No, of course that's not our demands. You can sit and talk all day you want and have dog and pony shows with all these different politicians. That doesn't get you anywhere. Action on the Senate, action on the floor, action at the state levels, action by our administration is how we get those things met. Having meetings doesn't solve it.
They want their freedom back.
Yeah, look, the result is they want government to leave them the hell alone. They want the mandates ended and the emergency ended. That's what they're demanding, and the meetings are how they get them.
Dr. Alexander, let me deal with it scientifically for him.
Let me jump in. Is the audio good enough on this? I might be able to do a quick edit to boost it up. But they were talking about their demands there. Let me know. I'm going to play it a little bit. Let me know in the chat.
Going on for 3 weeks peacefully. Your media must make sure they understand that. There's been no events. This is a peaceful, embracing, loving movement built on the backs of the Canadian trucker. Now, the science, there is no science in the world, none. And I want to say it clearly, that supports these vaccine mandates or any mandates. COVID is done. It is over. People want to go on with their lives. The trucker is waging the scientific battle. The doctors and academics.
I got this video from YouTube, but I've seen it before where they've taken my video down where it's still up on YouTube right now. I want to make it clear for my overlords that I would never question the greatness of our organizations. You always have to contact your doctor. I would never question the effectiveness of any type of experimental drug that they would force upon us. They are perfect overlords.
Scientists, the NIH, CDC, FDA have failed to.
Okay, so I got the audio's fine. So let me talk about the first piece. They talked about what are the demands. That's the number one thing. That is the most important. So you're going around, you're encircling DC, you're saying, hey, we're not going anywhere. Gotcha. Fully, I gotcha. Great. What are the demands? So I'm going to compare these two. I'm going to compare the Canadian truckers. So I want to get my slight criticism out of the way and then let them shine and show kind of this meeting here. And props to Ted Cruz. He's been a big part of this. He doesn't have to be. He's an establishment dude, but I think he has, there's something Rush saw something in Ted Cruz. I see it as well. I think that he's very smart on the Constitution. He's a very important figure. He's a very important senator. So I do want to give a shout out to Ted Cruz. I know he had that slip up recently, but nobody's perfect. It's no big deal. But let me play the Canadian demands. They were crystal clear.
What are the aims of this protest movement? So, Mr. Dichter, thank you for being willing to talk to me, and I'll let you say anything you want and also to take it from here.
Okay, thank you, Jordan. And so we just prepared a statement that can really solidify some of the basics so nobody's confused. So I'm going to read exactly what our statement is. The Freedom Convoy is a peaceful and loving demonstration based on the principles of unity and respect for all Canadians. We have come to Ottawa with two very simple demands. One, the government and two, the federal government remove its digital COVID tracking app called ArriveCan as a requirement to re-enter Canada. We have not anticipated the thirst for freedom in all.
That was it. Those were was end all mandates. Now, I'm not familiar with how Canada works. If we have anybody from Canada in here, it didn't seem like they had to deal with the province level. They were talking about, is it, federal level in Canada? I'm not sure. But it was concise. End all mandates. And then the other one was very smart. The QR code. This is the digital part of it. To end that. Possum friend says, one, leave me alone. Yeah, you could say that. Pretty concise. That's pretty much what it comes down to. But when the truckers talked about theirs, for me, it just wasn't as concise. So let me play this one more time. See how quick and easy this is?
Minutes. The Freedom Convoy is a peaceful and loving demonstration based on the principles of unity and respect for all Canadians. We have come to Ottawa with two very simple demands. One, the government end all COVID mandates. And two, the federal government remove its digital COVID tracking app called ArriveCan as a requirement to re-enter Canada. We have not anticipated the thirst for freedom in all Canadians after 2 long years of restrictions and harsh lockdowns, which in the minds of sensible Canadians are not in the spirit of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms and our esteemed Constitution. The supporters of our convoy have come from all walks of life and have been a source of unification for Canadians from across
time. 2 other convoys have joined up with us. We're not going anywhere. We're not gonna leave. We're gonna stay put. We're gonna keep.
So this is the U.S. now.
Keep doing what we're doing until we start getting more meetings like we just had today. Our demands, if you want to say, have been pretty clear. End the state of emergency, end the vaccine mandates, and let's start holding both our elected and unelected officials accountable for their actions.
So I don't think so. Just some feedback. He said, if you want to call them demands. No, they got to be their demands. And then he talked about end all mandates. The issue that we have here is we got the federal and the state. So right now you're in D.C. To me, it makes sense. They can do, they're putting their life on the line. So far be it for me to say anything otherwise. Just to me, it would make sense to say federal, and then you got to deal with the state. Because right now, the federal state of emergency that started in March of 2020 is still going on right now. And the president said, if any bill comes to my desk, removing it, so Congress can say you don't have it anymore. Believe it or not, the president can veto it. So you need to have a veto-proof bill to the president to stop his emergency powers. he still has emergency powers. And there's governors in other states that do too. But I think you got to focus on the federal. And that's got to be the goal. And then you start talking, well, that's clouding your demands.
That led to this through bipartisan congressional hearings and investigations into the origins of the pandemic and the federal government's and state government's response to this pandemic.
So the demands are that you meet with, because out in Hagerstown you guys had mentioned that you guys wanted to meet with every single lawmaker. Are those the demands for you guys to end, once you get all those meetings, then to go home?
No, of course that's not our demands. You can sit and talk all day you want and have.
That's odd that, did you not hear what he said? So I would have had different questions, but he just said to end all demands. He didn't say anything about meetings.
Dog and pony shows with all these different politicians, that doesn't get you anywhere. Action on the Senate, action on the floor, action at the state levels, action by our administration is how we get those things met. Having meetings doesn't solve it.
They want their freedom back.
Yeah, look, the result is they want government to leave them the hell alone. They want the mandates.
Just like somebody said in the chat. I want to read this. Christian, thank you for stopping by. Christian said, that's what slays me, the leftist insistence on not leaving us, the rest of us, alone. It's frankly enraging, the level of control they want to attempted to assert on us. Sick. You see it when, I don't know if you saw this clip on The View where they said Tulsi Gabbard, who served this country, is still an active reserve officer. They wanted her arrested. And Tucker Carlson. Yeah, there's something in the leftist mentality that they feel that they are so righteous. It's coming from a place of good. So what you have to watch out for is you have a good intent, good heart, and it can be turned to bad things. I always bring up Star Wars. That's what happened to Anakin. That's the battle of Star Wars, everyone thinks they're doing good. And sometimes that thought of doing good turns you into an authoritarian or pro-authoritarian.
Ended. And the emergency ended. That's what they're demanding, and the meetings are how they get them.
Dr. Alexander, let me deal with it scientifically for him. This has been going on for 3 weeks peacefully. Your media must make sure they understand that. There's been no events. This is a peaceful, embracing, loving movement built on the backs of the Canadian trucker. Now, the science, there is no science in the world, none. And I want to say it clearly, that support.
So I'm going to skip that part because it makes me a little uneasy, even though I literally took this from YouTube. Let me go to a couple other spots and then we'll be out here.
States, start right now, organize. You don't have to be a trucker to do it. Just love your freedoms.
And Ron's got.
He's talking about the state level. I think if you can put pressure on the federal level, then the states will follow.
A powerful note he got, one of those notes. Yeah. You want to read that?
I absolutely will. One of the moving things that we have moving across this country is the notes. And this one little note that I brought today is, I can pull stacks of these notes. Stacks of these notes written by children with crayons. As I said, before I left Adelanto, a 4-year-old or so little girl just came up to me and hugged me and handed me a crayon note that was written in her hand. We love you, truckers. Thank you for fighting for our futures. And I took on a very important thing. I rose my hand, I took an oath, like many in this convoy have. That oath had no expiration date. And I may not be serving in the active military today, but I am serving my country nonetheless until my dying breath. And that is why I am here. I am telling these people, I am the Pony Express today, and I'm taking your messages. I'm taking your tears, your hearts, your love, your I love yous, and every message and every word you give to me, I'm taking it with me, and I'm going to let them be heard. So let me say this one letter. Dear trucker, I admire your courage and your determination in doing this. I will support you and pray for you and pray for a victory over the sad oppression that is going on. Thank you for fighting for all of us. A mother of three, God bless you.
Senators, with COVID as politically divisive as it's become, I mean, you just said they're never going to admit that they're wrong. So what does it take to get Democrats on board, do you think, and what is the message to them?
Look, I think what it takes is more and more American people standing up. The State of the Union was a bellwether. As I said, a week before the State of the Union, Pelosi had put out an order that you couldn't come to the floor of the House without wearing a mask. And yet, you know, it's amazing. The thing that changed wasn't the science, it was the polling. I do think you're starting to see Democrats getting scared that their authoritarian abuse, people are fed up with it. People are tired of shutting down their businesses, shutting down their schools, abusing their freedom. And I think more and more people standing up and speaking out, like the truckers are doing right now. What's got to happen is elected officials have to be more afraid of the people than they are of the party bosses in Washington. Right now, that's not happening. But that needs to change, and I believe it is.
I would ask, why has the CDC, the NIH, the FDA been so non-transparent? Why have they not provided the American public with the information that we need to make tough choices? That there's nothing easy, from my standpoint, to, in terms of making the choice to get vaccinated or not vaccinated. That's a personal choice. It should be done with informed consent. But our health agencies have not given people the information. So what's it going to take? I think the truth. And I think as more and more truth actually starts leaking out, and it's coming in from all over the world, I think people will be awakened. And again, that's what the whole purpose of the People's Convoy is, to awaken the American public to what's happening. You know, Pierre, do you want to speak a little bit on that?
That's Senator Ron Johnson who just spoke there, if you weren't aware.
I mean, there's so few of us who get a public chance to speak out, but you know, when you look at these mandates, they're using science to convince people of these mandates and the need for these mandates. The science isn't there. It hasn't been there for a long time. We know the data. I mean, they've corrupted science. I mean, I'm a physician.
So this is a little bit out of my element because I'm not a marketer, and this is all marketing. And I think a lot of it is education. Like, how many people even know what the ramifications of the president having emergency powers are? We're still using, for these experimental drugs, they're still getting emergency use authorization. Still right now. How many people really understand what that means? So it's an education. It's a very tough thing. You got to figure out what resonates with people. But to me, what resonates with me is the emergency powers have to stop. Like, this is not, we're beyond that part. And then we got to really revamp the emergency powers. I think they need to be removed completely. We don't need them. We do not need emergency powers for the president at all. We've got communication. There's no need for emergency powers.
Coming out of the feelings that we were rolling out of Atalanta all the way here, and there's convoys that came from other directions to join up with us as well. This is how passionate we feel about it. This is how.
Do you know this right here covers it, right? Our founder fathers. So you have the freedom to believe what you want to believe.
This is an 18-year-old kid right here who's standing up.
Production here, but he's
Yeah.
playing the truckers.
When does it end?
Can I ask you a question, please?
Going up, but
Excuse me, I'm sorry of this. I'm so tired of this shit. Excuse my French. Sir, quick question. You have a thing on it that says press. Do you know this right here covers it, right? Our founder fathers. So you have the freedom to believe what you want to believe. Okay, I'm not questioning your job. No, listen, please listen. When does it end? Listen. I'm not questioning your job, what you think, what you feel. But it boils my blood when the American people out there. I gave a lady my jacket the other day because she was standing outside in cold while she was locked out of her car. We're out there fighting for each other's lives every single day. You have the goddamn freedom to believe what you want to believe. The freedom of press, the freedom of religion. We're not questioning you. All I gotta just say is just give the American people a goddamn chance. Excuse my French to all the women in here. I'm so sorry, but that just I'm so sorry.
You keep saying what's next.
Yeah.
We are here until we end this menagerie of mandates and not laws. We are a country of, please let me finish. You spoke, I'm speaking. We are a country of laws, not mandates. Mandates are something that come in a smoke-filled room with your mafiosos sitting in there saying, this is what we are going to do. And when you guys wake up and deliver that message to the people and stop, that's when we will stop. That's the next step.
So, and let me, we should wrap up soon, but let me.
They tried to wrap up. He was respectful. They got a little worried that it got a little heated, but I don't think they came close to crossing the line. They were just passionate about it. I'm not going to play this. They were trying to. Ted Cruz is like, you know what? I think we're running out of time because it was getting more escalated. I love that part right there from the young man and showing courage, and then this veteran right here. He's absolutely right. He's like, the media's not. It's the education part. The media is not educating people on the emergency orders are still going on. What does that mean? Why is that happening? That's what he was really getting at. And he's talking to a member of the press. It got heated because the member of the press, I forgot what it was. They used a word to describe it, like a fervor or something like that. And they didn't like that the media was trying to put that on there. The media wasn't that bad there, though. But really pumped me up to see that. And there's not much coverage. So I got to wrap my head around this and try to do more coverage, because the Canadian one got way more coverage, at least from what I'm seeing. Maybe I'm not following the right people. But yeah, that's American spirit. What you saw right there, that is the American spirit right there for everyone to see. We should be proud of that. We should celebrate that. And it really makes me proud to be an American to see people step up like that. So I appreciate everybody stopping by. I will be out. I'm going to try to actually edit some videos. We'll see. I'll probably fall asleep trying to edit these up for the other channel. But thanks everybody for joining. I appreciate it. Take care.